Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. This is the story of a man who treated his Honda like a 4x4, wrecked it, then insulted the mechanics who tried to help him. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. Customer insulted our team. His $75 fix took 2 weeks because karma. The past few months at my shop have been chaotic. Not because of the work itself, but because of people and their attitudes. With the current political climate, my boss has had to put up with more than his fair share of nonsense, especially from customers who can't seem to handle the fact that our mechanics often speak Spanish to one another. It's a sore spot for me because these guys are some of the hardest working, most skilled techs around. They've been in the business for years, and if they want to crack jokes or give instructions in their first language, who cares? Apparently, though, a few people do. The complaints usually sound the same. Why aren't they speaking English? Or, I don't know what they're saying. They might be talking about me. My boss has perfected his response. He calmly tells them to mind their own business and reminds them that if they don't like it, Pep Boys, the dealerships, and Walmart Auto Service are in the next town over. That usually shuts them up, because a tow to that next town runs about $350 on a hook and closer to $500 if it has to go on a flatbed. Suddenly, our bilingual shop isn't such a problem. Then there's Dan. He's a man who looks like he was born clenching a clipboard and has never unclenched since. If he got stuck at a four-way intersection, I'm convinced he'd stand there for hours waiting for someone else to wave him through. He drives a new Honda sedan and somehow manages to treat it like it's a rugged 4x4 truck. The result? Disaster waiting to happen. One day, Dan limps into the shop with his car making a horrific noise. Turns out he ripped his plastic skid plate clean off and somehow managed to wrap it around one of the half shafts. The car was grinding, smoking, and producing that unmistakable smell of burning plastic. The moment he stepped out of his car, Dan launched into complaints. He barked at us that he needed it fixed immediately because he was planning to drive to Los Angeles that evening. My boss, ever the patient man, warned him, "Look, we can take it off for you today, but if there's any other damage, it might take longer. We can't promise it'll be good to go right away." Dan didn't want to hear it. Instead of listening, his attention shifted to one of our techs, a young guy leaning against a toolbox while waiting on a part. He was laughing with another mechanic, both of them joking in Spanish, and that's when Dan crossed the line. "If you hired some proper mechanics, maybe you'd get this crap done faster," he sneered. The entire shop went silent. You could have heard a pin drop. My boss looked at him for a second, then replied, deadpan, "You know what? You're going to have to wait. Maybe a week, maybe 5. Unless you want to tow it to the next town over, those are your options." I couldn't help but grin. We all knew what that meant. Dan was at our mercy. His car wasn't going anywhere in that condition unless it was strapped to a truck. Dan's bravado fizzled out right then. He muttered something under his breath, tossed his keys onto the counter, and walked out of the shop on foot. The man actually trudged home, leaving his Honda stranded. Here's the kicker. By the end of the night, the job was already done. The replacement part only cost around $75, and with the skid plate removed and replaced, the car was back in working order. He could have been in and out the same day if he hadn't run his mouth. But my boss wasn't about to call him right away. Nope, Dan had to stew. He ended up waiting nearly 2 weeks before we let him know the car was ready. That's 2 weeks of walking, bumming rides, or grumbling to anyone who'd listen about the incompetent mechanics who had him stranded. The irony? Aside from the shredded plastic cover, there was no serious damage. The car was fine. But Dan's pride? That's another story. At the end of the day, my boss's message was clear. Disrespect the people in the shop, and you'll regret it. And honestly, watching Dan walk home in a huff while his perfectly good car sat waiting for a cheap fix, that was the most satisfying thing I'd seen in weeks. I don't understand people sometimes. You need assistance, but then talk crap to or about the people who are going to be assisting you? And our second story. Entitled customer insulted my job, so I helped end hers. This goes back quite a few years, back when I was working retail in a high-end audio store. To set the scene, this wasn't some big box electronics shop. We specialized in selling just one premium brand, Bose. It wasn't in the US, but the retail experience was pretty universal. If you've worked sales, you know what I mean. One afternoon, a woman walked in. Let's call her Karen. Right away, I could tell she carried herself with that "I'm here to be difficult" energy. She walked straight up and said flatly, "I'm looking for headphones." No problem, that's literally my job. I smiled, kept my tone professional, and asked the standard follow-up question. Of course, do you need them mainly for travel, music at home, or working out? I wanted to steer her toward the right product. Instead of answering, she cut me off. "What do you have under this budget?" She threw out a number, which narrowed down her options quite a bit. I led her over to the display, showed her what models fit within her range, and began my usual polite sales pitch. That's when she decided I was the problem. "I don't like your attitude," she snapped suddenly, stepping right into my personal space. Then, in the most condescending tone possible, she added, "I make more than you." Her face was inches from mine. The arrogance was almost cartoonish. Before I could respond, she spun on her heel, stormed to the door, flung it open, and slammed it behind her so hard that the glass rattled. My manager and I just stood there in stunned silence. We'd both dealt with rude customers before, but this was on another level. As I looked out the window, something caught my eye. Her car parked right out front. And what do you know? Plastered on the side in giant vinyl lettering was the name of her business. She'd basically handed me a calling card. Later that evening, I went home and created a new Google account. Nothing fancy, just a quick burner. Then I left a review for her business describing her as rude, obnoxious, and thoroughly unpleasant to deal with. It wasn't a lie. If she treated her own customers the way she treated me, people deserve to know. I didn't think much more about it. Life in retail moves fast, and customers like her come and go. 6 months later, I had moved on to a better job and left the Bose store behind. Out of curiosity, one night I looked up her business on Google again to see if my review was still there. To my surprise, it had become part of a trend. My single review had apparently struck a nerve, and over time, more and more people had piled on with their own negative experiences. The overall rating tanked. Customers described her with the same words I had used: rude, entitled, and unprofessional. Her business was gone, closed down. I couldn't help but laugh. In the end, she was right about one thing. She probably did make more than me back then, but now she had nothing, and I had the satisfaction of knowing that her own behavior was what finally did her in. People like that are so used to only seeing things their way, their narcissism doesn't allow them to see the truth about themselves or how the truth will impact them. Well played. And our next story. Sneaky sales rep got caught digging in payroll, so I put her on blast and then let her go. My wife and I own a balloon decor company with 8 employees. We take pride in paying a living wage and creating jobs for folks who might not fit in the traditional workforce. We've come up with one inviolable rule in hiring: no mean people. Erin was the reason we instituted this rule. She was rude to other staff and sometimes the customers and considered herself better than the rest of the sales team, but she also made frequent and sometimes costly errors. She'd shift the blame when she could or downplay the errors when she couldn't. She had a steady stream of complaints to the boss, me, about her terrible coworkers, and a steady stream of complaints to her coworkers about her terrible boss. She loved snagging the high-value inquiries before anyone else and then complained that we paid hourly rather than on commission. Our whole sales team, 3 people, had unrestricted access to QuickBooks so they could create invoices and bill clients. One day, my awesome sales manager told me that Erin had logged into the HR portion of QuickBooks and was looking at everyone's paychecks. She wanted to know what the manager made so she could argue for a raise she didn't deserve because she was barely holding on to her job at that point. I laughed because pay rates have never been a secret. The whole company's finances are an open book, and I feel every one of our crew should be able to know our gross, net, materials cost, wages, owner wages, debts, anything they ask. If she'd have asked, I would have told her exactly what the sales manager made and what she needed to do to get a raise. Somehow, she thought she could gain an advantage by being sneaky. The next day, I asked my bookkeeper to print out everyone's pay rate. I taped the printout to the whiteboard for everyone to see. Only Erin knew why it had suddenly appeared, and she was pissed. A few weeks later, she was gone from the company, and I wrote up a "Who Are We" document for the whiteboard that every new employee sees. It promises wage and financial transparency and has only one sentence capitalized: "No mean people." Yeah, up and down complainers get busted eventually, but before that, they take themselves out. They don't have enough emotional intelligence to realize the boss has different priorities, therefore a different view. Same all the way down to the truck drivers. Different view, different priorities. Same down to the toilet cleaner, even in small companies when that's the boss. And our last story. She blew the $5,000 I gave her, trashed the car I warned her about, and blamed me. Last year, I decided it was time to upgrade my car situation. With a big family and no public transport nearby, we realistically need 3 cars. It sounds excessive, but it's just how life is set up where we live. When I replaced my old car, I ended up with a spare vehicle, a beat-up 20-year-old sedan that still ran but was definitely on its last legs. Alongside that, I had about $5,000 left over from my budget. Around the same time, my sister was struggling. She had gotten herself into trouble, and her child was in child protection. She was constantly running back and forth between court, appointments, and supervised visits. I wanted to help, so I gave her the old car and the $5,000 to buy herself something more reliable. I sat her down and explained very clearly, this car will get you from point A to point B for now, but it's not a long-term solution. Use this money to find something dependable, because this one won't last. She nodded, smiled, and thanked me. I thought that was the end of it. The very next day, I got a text from her. Sister, hey, can I just have one of your other cars instead? It'd save me time, and I know it's been looked after. I showed my husband, and we both agreed. If she wanted one of our newer cars, fine, but she'd need to return the $5,000 so we could put it toward another purchase. My husband had been eyeing an off-road vehicle anyway, so it wasn't unreasonable. When I told her, she exploded. Me. We can transfer one of our cars into your name. We'll cover the fees. You just need to give back the $5,000 since you won't need it anymore. Sister, what? No, you gave me the money. It's mine. Me, yes, to buy a car. If I give you one, you don't need the money for that anymore. Sister, but you've got 3 cars, and money, and a job. This will make getting child's name back easier. Me, we need 3 cars too. Giving you one means we have to replace it, and that costs money. Sister, fine, I'll give you $3,500. Me, absolutely not. The car's worth $10,000 easily. You're getting it for free. Giving back $5,000 isn't unreasonable. Sister, it's not free if you make me give you money back. I need a reliable car, and you're just being selfish. Round and round we went until I finally snapped. Forget it. Keep the old car, keep the money, but don't ask me for anything else. We're done. I stopped contacting her. That's when the fines started rolling in. Red lights, speeding, parking in no parking zones, all under my name since the old car was still registered to me. Thankfully, I was able to transfer the tickets into her name each time, but it was a nightmare of paperwork. When I texted her to knock it off, she ignored me, so I went to the DMV and transferred the title into her name officially. Where we live, once a car's in your name, you have 30 days to produce a roadworthy certificate. If you can't, the car's taken off the road. That old sedan? No way it would pass inspection. That finally got her attention. Sister, how dare you? Now I'll have no car. You've ruined everything for me. She blew up my phone with abusive texts, then switched to Facebook Messenger when I blocked her number. She accused me of sabotaging her life and told me I was to blame if she couldn't get her child back. Then came the kicker. She confessed she'd already spent the entire $5,000. Not on a car, of course, but on other things. So now she had no reliable car, no money, and no plan. The last message she sent me before I cut her off completely read, Sister, you forced me to take that old piece of junk. If you hadn't, I would have bought something better. This is all your fault. And now you're the reason my kid can't live with me. You're selfish, and you never help anyone. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. She burned through every ounce of goodwill I had left. The car died a month later, exactly as I'd warned her. Meanwhile, I've been enjoying life with my family, 3 cars, reliable transportation, and 0 guilt. And my sister? She's stuck walking. On one hand, you bent over backwards to give your sister a massive lifeline, not just a free car, but $5,000 on top of it. And somehow she managed to twist that into you being the bad guy. That's wild. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.